Okay, I'm back again. I was cut off at just under 10 minutes on my previous video. This would be video number 3, describing the Woodstock and Dead Sea Scroll connections. And I was just relating how I used to work for this truck driver, and we went to Lewis Larson's farm. And when I was at this farm, it would have been around 1987 or 88, somewhere in that time frame. And I remember him telling me how he and his wife went to the city of St. Louis for a fellow serviceman's wedding. He was a World War II vet, and he went to his fellow serviceman's wedding in St. Louis. And at their wedding reception, he met a man who had been in the area of White Lake, South Dakota, back in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And the story that this man told Lewis goes something like this. This man was part of a wheat harvesting crew, which was in the area of White Lake, South Dakota, and I believe it was in a November morning when this man was contemplating leaving because his boss was very cruel to him and withholding pay and whatnot. And he went outside, and it was very early in the morning, and he looked off to the horizon, and it looked as if this whole town of White Lake was upside down in the sky in a fog bank of some sort. And the man was frightened by this, and he took this as a definite sign that he should leave. And so he journeyed back to his home in St. Louis, and he made it back there just in time for Thanksgiving. And so this story stuck in my mind, and so yeah, Lewis Larson was at a farm in the area of Forestburg and Woonsocket, South Dakota. And Woonsocket is meaningful to me because you could say Woodstock and a Woonsocket would fit together. And so Lewis, Lewis was a World War II vet, and he went to this fellow serviceman's wedding in St. Louis, which sort of sparks a thought in me as a person who risked his life to preserve the freedom of his fellow countrymen. That's about as saintly as you can get. And so that's sort of my train of thought there. And so so that makes me really patriotic about all this. So so then there's the correlation to Thanksgiving, and thinking about Thanksgiving, and I thought about how, with all these other things that are connected, where does 390 come into play? And I just thought, what kind of significant things happened that could fit with 390, 40, and 20. And so I got to thinking, the Plymouth Pilgrims landed in this country at 1620. And so in 1620, if you add 390 to that, you come up with 2010. So 2010 would have been 390 years since the Plymouth Rock settlers came. And some people want to portray them as terrorists or just tyrants, but in reality, what kind of tyrants bring their family and children on one of their escapades? I don't think that's the case. They brought their children and families and friends here, and they had their problems becoming friends with the Indians. They were totally two different cultures. But over a period of weeks and months, they began to become friends, and that's where we learned about our first Thanksgiving. And it was, if you read about the history of the Plymouth Rock settlement, there's Mr. Bradford wrote a history about the Plymouth Rock adventures, and so at about a year or two after they got settled, there were more people that came over, and it clearly describes in the account that Mr. Bradford made that these later comers were they had more unscrupulous plans, and they weren't here for the same reasons that the Plymouth Rock settlers came here for. They were here to conquer and pillage, just like what people like to portray the Plymouth Rock settlers for doing. But it was actually not them. It was people who came a year or two after the Plymouth Rock people came here. That was sort of got the ball rolling in the wrong direction as far as the way I think of it is the Plymouth Rock Pilgrims came here for freedom, and the tyrancy, the tyrants, the overbearing rulers sort of followed them here in the form of these later people who came to conquer for wealth and glory, whatever. And so yeah, that's the correlation I draw with Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims and the 390 years and the 40 years in 2010. It was 40 years since the Woodstock event, and in that sort of time frame, we have very drastic changes on the horizon for the United States with the election of Barack Obama. And it looks like I'm going to be running out of time here shortly, and so I hope that's some food for thought for people. And so I'll be saying goodbye, and I'll talk to you later.